So we're really happy today to introduce Judy Braha, who is the 2022 Oscar Brockett Outstanding Teacher of the Year. So Judy, thanks so much for being here to answer a couple of questions. And let's just start with what inspired you to become a teacher?
Oh boy, that's a big question. Well, I went to Carnegie Mellon University as an undergrad, and I had some wonderful, wonderful acting teachers there. Paul Draper, Jewel Walker, Israel Hicks, and many others. And I learned so much from them. I was very, very much a newbie at that point. And I learned a lot from them, but I was also quite terrified during the whole experience. And I think there was something in me that really wanted to pass on the valuable stuff that I learned from them in a way that was very rigorous and enjoyable and fun, sort of deconstructed in a way that made people excited about learning and not so terrified, more just dying to dive in and leap off the cliff that they had chosen to leap off. So I think that's pretty much what sparked me in that direction. I started just coaching people to make money, really. And then I liked it so much. And when I started directing, I was an actor first. And when I started directing in my late 20s, I loved the idea of sort of deconstructing the process in a way to put it into some component parts and make it an exciting experience for people rather than being quite so scary.
I love that. So in addition to teaching in higher ed, you also teach in prisons and jails. And just curious, what led you to discover that whole world?
Well, my wonderful colleague from the BU School of Music, Andre de Quadros, gave a talk about some work he was doing in a medium security men's prison in Massachusetts. And he spoke about the class, and he gave examples of poetry they had written, visual arts they had done. And I just was totally taken with the idea of doing that. And I just walked up to him afterwards and said, can I do that with you, please? Do you need a theater component in your music appreciation class? And so we started working together in these two medium security prisons in 2010. And I loved being there. It was just a very, very exciting opportunity to use what I knew to humanize a very dehumanizing environment. And one of the best parts about teaching in these carceral facilities was the opportunity to bring students from my acting classes and from another class I teach called the Collaborative Arts Incubator into the prisons with us, and bring them in as fellow students rather than any kind of an expert. And that was just like the bee's knees as far as I was concerned. And I just really loved it. So we taught in those facilities for almost a decade, then taught in some county jails in Massachusetts. And during COVID had to kind of shut everything down. But we're hoping in the fall we can perhaps go back again to this original facility, which we really like teaching in so much.
Oh, I hope so. I've spoken to some students who have had that inside-outside experience, and they just found it life-changing.
Totally, totally. It's actually one of the best things I've ever done in my whole life. And because I've learned as much as I've taught, and I see some of these guys have gotten out of prison since we taught them a decade ago. And it's just great to see them thriving on the outside, and thriving to a great extent because we help them in some capacity find their own voice and continue speaking with that voice, telling their own stories vividly, and just approaching life a bit differently.
Oh, that is so fantastic.
Yeah.
personally, I think that teaching directing is one of the hardest things to teach in a theater program. And I know that that is in your wheelhouse. And so
Yeah.
I'm curious what your pedagogical approach is to helping young directors find their own directorial voice.
Well, it is very difficult to teach. I feel from my own experience and from many years of teaching young directors, and I've taught both undergraduate and graduate directing classes and run the M.F.A. program at BU for quite some time. I feel like approaching the whole person is at the bottom of all of it. The analytical, the physical, the impulsive, and everything in between those, I guess, goalposts. I don't think there is any holy grail in terms of teaching directing. I think lots of hands-on practice and wonderful in-the-room mentoring is really, really essential. I know in the context of our program, we've really tried to make collaboration the kind of hallmark of how any of our directors work, if there is any one way, which there isn't, that they really, really value their collaborators, both actors and designers and stage managers, production managers, all of them, and that they develop an ability to encourage generosity in their collaborators as well as in themselves. Of course, a healthy appetite for script analysis and research, and studying different kinds of directing is important, but I think it's, what is this play for you, and why do you want to do it now, and what rabbit holes do you need to go down to understand your gut responses to any text you're working on, and then what do you want to make of those rabbit holes, and how do you want to pass those on to your collaborators. I also think consistent work with playwrights has been a very important component of the training that we've been doing at BU. I don't think there's anything like it, really, being able to work with a playwright from the very beginning of an idea all the way through the script coming to fruition in a production. I think all of those things together seem to be helpful. So that's a very long-winded answer to your question.
No, I'm learning. So I'm excited to try to teach it again. So Judy, I know you've had lots of different types of teaching experiences, and I'm just wondering if you would share maybe an anecdote or two of, a favorite story or an inspiring story from working with a student that maybe kept you going as a teacher.
Well, I'm going to have to cycle back to your question about teaching in prisons then, I guess. My students in what came to be known as the Empowering Song class at MCI Norfolk were amazing. We taught 26 students every semester, and they all took the class like 4 or 5 times. They really wanted to be there, which was really great. And bringing BFA acting students into that environment with me, not to be any kind of expert or teaching assistant, but to be fellow students in that class, was kind of the best thing I can point to in terms of teaching wonderment, I guess. I watched these students who were very good in their own right and very dedicated to their training, very talented, be able to be themselves in a room with this group of people, incarcerated men in this case, in a way that they never could in a classroom at the College of Fine Arts. And that they would walk away feeling like, now I know what you're talking about when you ask me to work for myself. I thought it was something different, but now here I did that in that class without even thinking about it. And just doing that over and over again with many different groups of students over a decade or so, I felt like it was sort of a magical thing to watch these very able and highly trained people suddenly step into their own bodies and voices and points of view in a way that they didn't know they could in an acting class or directing class. So I have to say that that was amazing. And what that did to our incarcerated students was phenomenal, because they then saw that they could do that themselves. And so these very guarded people began to unguard. And that was their favorite part of the class, when we brought students in to work with them as fellow students. And whatever it was, doing movement pieces, reading a piece of Shakespeare, whatever it was, they just clicked together in a way that I guess people wouldn't expect on a daily basis.
Oh, that's so exciting, because I totally agree with you. The B.F.A. performers in so many ways are just as guarded perhaps as the inside students in very different ways. And to create an environment where they both can find their own authenticity just gives me goosebumps.
I know, it's so exciting to witness. It really is.
Oh, that's incredible. Well, Judy, thank you so much for your time today. And on behalf of everybody at ATHE, congratulations. We're really just so honored to give you this honor for this lifetime of teaching.
Thank you so much. I'm so thrilled and touched. Thank you to all the people at ATHE.